Hello and welcome to Witchy Wellness Radio. I'm your host, Lauren Chalantani, women's holistic health coach and fellow recovering perfectionist. This podcast was created to show you that your body is not in the way, it is actually leading your way. I am very particular about the type of CBD and hemp products that I use. There's so much hype and lack of testing and quality in the industry. So the company that I love and use is Evo Hemp. Not only do they have a beautiful product like hemp seeds, CBD oil, gummies, even hemp chocolate, protein bars, protein powder, they also support a 40-acre co-op farm in Minnesota, which is farmer-owned, focusing on bringing equality and innovation back to Black, Indigenous, and other socially disadvantaged farmers. So if you are looking into trying any type of CBD or hemp products, head over to evohemp.com. The link is in the show notes, and make sure you use code WICHY, WICTHY, for 20% off of your purchase. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Witchy Wellness. I'm your host, Lauren, and this is a show you learn how your body and emotions are not in the way, they're actually leading the way. And today we get to talk with Julia Munck, a fellow witch, talking all about awakening the witch, navigating your solar return, and channeling restless energy into your soul purpose. I know all of you guys are going to love this episode. I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I love the intersection of how you approach technology and, spirituality, your purpose, the witchiness, if you will, because that is, I know by each of us awakening our own witch, we're here to give that energy, give that purpose. It's really awakening our purpose at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so excited to hear your own story and how you awakened your witch and how you kind of intersected that with your past experience to create your startup, your spiritual startup.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, it's a fun story that I'd like to share, and hopefully to inspire somebody else to follow theirs too. So my background is in tech, right? So I have a long career in tech and in games specifically, so mobile games, online games, virtual reality games, like all the things. And I loved doing that for the longest time. It was really giving me a lot of pleasure. And I'm like a pleasure witch in that way. Like I really want to do the things that bring me joy. And that's sort of how I'm guiding my life. Like if it brings me joy, I'll do it. If not, then pivot. And it was so fun for so long. And, I did all the things I set out to do. Like I left my native home, Sweden, to pursue a career in Silicon Valley, because that's where the action was. I managed to get up to vice president product at like big ass companies and like navigated corporate America, which was like not easy to do, but I figured it out. And then I stood there and like at the pinnacle, like all my achievements, and I'm like, yeah, I did it. I got the thing I aspired to. Like, and on the personal front, like, oh, I have the husband, I have the family, the kids, and like on paper, my life is freaking perfect. Like it's so good, right? But then I also felt like so empty inside. I'm like, oh my God, no, please tell me this isn't it. Like I can't believe, is this it? Is this how I'm supposed to be feeling when I'm like at the top of that mountain that I finally scaled? And I just like and they're like thrown into depression. I'm like, no way, I've been so myopic with my life, just like trying to achieve. And then I'm like, no, something else, something's got to give. And at that juncture, I wasn't necessarily having that big spiritual witchy practice. Like it was still like dormant inside of me. But luckily in my community, there were a whole bunch of witches. And that really helped guide me. I have to say, really relied on my community as I was hitting on this point of just like, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be doing now because nothing feels fun. And through like all kinds of modalities, like everything from like plant medicine to, talking to really awesome spiritual people as mentors and breath work and like all the things. I just like threw myself on all the things. Like let's wake up, like this, let's figure something else. And just had like came away with these like deep experiences and just like, whoa, holy moly, like the unseen is like amazing. There's so the energy, and it finally started clicking for me, you know. And I was like brought up an atheist, so I didn't even have like I don't have like Catholic baggage or anything. So I could just like, oh, this is cool, you know. I just went straight into all of that. So that felt amazing, and I started like unfurling a little bit, like what happened to me, like why did I end up at this place, and it just sort of seeing how I try to play in the corporate America world, how I tried to play the game had actually shut down my creativity and my life force completely, because I was like forced to work in an extremely male dominated industry. It's all dudes. I was especially like in product design, like there were like no women, like maybe one more, you know, and like they're just supposed to be like creating on a continuum, like, oh, it's day one you're creative, it's day five you're just as creative as you was the next day, and the next day is supposed to be as creative. And I'm like, I got exhausted, like I just didn't know how to do that. So for me, a lot of the things are just like, oh, my creativity doesn't work like that. It doesn't have to be like that way. Like if we align with the moon, and we allow the moon to help guide us through like our projects or our creative endeavors, then it flows. And I'm like, oh my God, that's why. And like started just embracing that and really working with the moon as a given for me to like do anything. So that felt like really, really good to me. And then, you know, as I started sort of thinking then about like what's my purpose, like I feel so alive now that I know all these things I didn't know, and I see more of the unseen. I am connecting to my spirit guides, I am doing all the things, like, so how can I survive? How can I keep going like in the world that I thought I wanted? So for me it was just like, I can't, right, I need to do something different. So that's when the idea of Sage came about, which is really about taking my background in like tech and games and then applying that, like my learnings and my interest into something new. So that's where Sage came from. So it's just like, how can I get people to do something spiritual or witchy every day? Like how can I get people to do that? Because for me it was really like something I needed. I'm like, okay, I had this huge experience, and then now what? Now I have to go to my 9 to 5, and now I have to put dinner on the table. And it's just like, yeah, that. So how can I remind myself like every day that I am a divine being, things like that, and I have more power than I know, and I can steer my life. I have control, and not control, nobody has control, but I can energetically try to create more things that feel aligned for me. So that was really the thing that came through from how I have to build this thing that can help people and guide them on the like awakening journeys, so they can wake their witches and like, you know, create a more fulfilling life. That was really, and because I need that. So I was really building it for myself. And I'm like, I know there's other people like me that could use this too. But I basically, and you know, here's the thing, like I was working the 9 to 5, which was more like 9 to 8 or all the time, you know, and then like 2 young children and family, and like, I'm like, how am I gonna have time to do like, yet another project? Like, how's that even gonna happen? So that was really like, I don't even know how to do it. So it was really the prayer for me. It's just like, find the time to do the things. And then I had this like process that I was like using mantras a lot. Like I had this chant, like the Ganesh mantra, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, which is really like unblocking your path from anything that's blocking your path the way you need to go. It's sort of clearing that. And I chanted that for like 40 days straight, like 108 times every day. And as a miracle, like all of a sudden there was like an opening, like as a 2 hour window. My husband's like, oh, I got up early. I'm picking the kids and doing dinner. Okay, great. I'm going to go to a cafe and I'm going to work on the thing. And like, as magic, as a whole month that just like, ta-da, like I got these hours that I could actually do the work and do the things. And I didn't feel any, and my kids started sleeping through the night. So I could like actually have some energy. And I was like, I got can work in the evening now. Like, this is great. So anyway, it was just like, it all came together. It really wanted to come through. And then, you know, I launched it, you know, it's almost like 4 years ago now. We're coming up on 4 years. And it just started as like little baby steps. And I'm like, I have no idea if anybody's going to want this. Like, I'm doing it for me. I know I want it, but like, I hope there's more than just my friends that download this thing. And then, you know, over time, like organically, it is just like, boom. Now I think we're at 500,000 downloads, and very vibrant community, and like people who use it for daily guidance every day. So it feels really fulfilling. And for me, it's just like, oh my God, like this is it. Like I feel so like fulfilled. I feel like I'm on purpose. I feel like the whole team behind Sage now is all everybody's living their purpose, and they're just like pouring their souls into what they're doing because we all think it's important, and that it's actually helping people. And every time I've had any sort of like, is this gonna work? I don't know. I can't make it. I don't know. Then we get like a 5-star review, bing, like automatically, just like keep going, like keep going, keep pushing, keep going. So it was really just like following a trail of breadcrumbs to getting it to where it is now. And like the journey continues, you know, we're by all means not done or finished. We're just like completely always like seeing what's next, what's unfolding. So it was a long answer, but it's been a joyous ride.
Oh, but I love to hear it. And that's what I love hearing, the heroine's journey, but also how you took, your background with the tech industry, with something that has helped you. And that's why one of the reasons why I started the show is because I want to inspire other listeners, other women. Once you start on this journey, you want to give back. You want to help others. It's just like it's a byproduct because you feel so full. And what a beautiful, beautiful example of that. That just and literally creating something that's the purpose of that. It's just for people to reground, recenter themselves every single day, every moment, to remember who they are.
Yeah, definitely. And coming from the games industry, I had a lot of, angst because I felt like I've been stealing people's time. So the whole design thesis there is like, how long can you keep the player in the game? And the longer you can keep them, the more money you make, and everybody's going to be really happy, and it's just like it's based on addiction, like in a way, like how can I get you addicted to the thing? I mean, we all know that the infinite scroll is an addiction mechanic too. Like it's all. So for me, it was just like, I'm not going to do that. There's going to be like an enough. Like you come to the end of today's content, like go and like take this content and use it in the world, so that we don't create this infinite thing of just like stealing people's time, rather than like here's a tidbit that you could use, implement in your life, make it better. So that's also like me sort of also giving back, like giving back people's time. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's so true. So can you give us an example of kind of what kind of content, somebody is interested in learning about the Sage staff, what to expect? Because that in itself is like interesting. I'm sure people here who are like, all right, I don't want endless scrolling. I want the purpose, straightforward, and apply.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really the goal that we have. So if you open the Sage tab, what we want you to do is really to do today's ritual. So every day we have a brand new ritual that is designed for the energy of that day. So based on what zodiac sign the sun is in, what phase the moon is in, what zodiac the moon is in, and then we craft something for that. And we really use elements to do that. So we look at the different elements and seeing, okay, what sign is active right now? What element is that? Like, oh, it's a double water day, so let's do something that aligns with that. And we have a staff of writers that are like completely amazing. And it's like simple things. It takes you 5 minutes. Sometimes it's just like ponder this, or a beautiful piece of poetry, or hey, do this really quick breath work, or do this grounding technique, or say this mantra. So it's like something short every day, just to sort of get you grounded, get you centered, and really sort of again awake to the witch inside, or like just feeling like your inner power, just like, yes, I am that. And then we have a quick gratitude practice. So basically just write a few words or a sentence about what you feel grateful for today, because we know that gratitude is really the highest frequency of emotions. Like if you are in a state of gratitude, you're vibrating in the most beautiful sort of energetic patterns that exists. So we want to make sure that people step into gratitude. Then we also have guided meditations, like also crafted for that day to help you out. And we don't do meditations that are half an hour. They're 5 minutes tops. Oftentimes it's 2 minutes, 1 minute, because again, it was designed for people who don't have a lot of time, that want to connect, do something, not feel like it's a burden or a hurdle or whatever. It's like, I have 5 minutes. I can take care of myself in 5 minutes. So
Have you taken the anxious personality quiz yet? Real talk. Not all anxiety is created equal, nor can you manifest the same way with it. Yes, that's true. You can manifest with your anxiety. I created this quiz so you can figure out how your anxiety manifests in your life, your emotions, your thoughts, and your actions. And when we have more insight into what are triggers and how to catch them faster, we're able to make lasting change and amplify what we want to manifest in our life. You can find out your anxious personality type at anxiousquiz.com. Learn to embrace and manifest with your anxiety today.
That's really what it is. That's the core component of the app. Then we have a couple of other articles every day for people who do want to spend like 2 more minutes, they can. And that would often be, maybe manifestation practices. They could be herbs or spells, like other more practical things that people might want to do. So that's like the core things. And then also when we have live classes a couple of times a month. So especially around the new moon and the full moon, those are like full-on ceremonies with like witches or priestesses or awesome people that we collaborate with. And those are like 45 to 60 minutes long, but then you really get into it. You get into the magic of the time. You work with the moon phases, the wheel of the year, which really centers and grounds you. So those are the big things. But if you had to do anything with the Sage app, I said come for the daily ritual because they're so beautiful and they're so perfect and they really get you going.
I love that. I love that because when I got started in this practice, I dove pretty deep into yoga and meditation, the spiritual world. And then I would should all over myself. Well, I didn't meditate for an hour and a half today. I should be doing that every single day. And that creates this huge other issue. And I realized, whatever time that I have today or whatever time I want to have today is enough. Is enough because I think that's what's keeping so many of us from consciously practicing and staying that energy. You might hear things about law of attraction, spirituality, yoga, all this stuff. You're like, yes, 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 this is my truth. This speaks to me. But then we like to create, at least from my experience, my ego likes to create situations that I like to forget this and creates these hurdles not to remember, not to sink into that energy because, we get lost in that 3D world of the material 3D world and forget who we really are. And it's a balance of both. You can't just live out of your body all the time. You have to bring that energy into the world. But I wanted to ask you, what are some of your top like simple daily rituals to get in that grounded space and be inspired? Because not being stuck in that chaotic go rush like 3D energy all the time.
Yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of it is about finding time alone. Like my energy just, I get overwhelmed with too much input. I'm a Gemini, so I'm both an introvert and extrovert, but I do need to shield myself and just have a moment of peace every day. So for me, that's really important. So just if that means locking myself in the bathroom for 5 minutes, that's okay. I mean, like, right, I have young kids that will open the bathroom door anyways. But for me, it often looks like this. My daily ritual is like I go for a run in the morning. Almost religiously every day. And it's not very long because if it gets too long and then I'm not going to do it because then I'm going to find 1,000 reasons not to do it. But the fact that I actually need some space and be alone, it's perfect. I'm just going to go for the run. I get my alone time, I get my exercise. And I run up this hill, like in San Francisco where I live, and I go up to the hill and there I do my first ritual of the day, which is it's combining exercise with spirituality. I should make a whole like company around this by itself, but I face the east, so it's really about acknowledging the four sacred directions and the elements, and I turn to the east, and this is while doing squats, mind you. So I turn to the east and I really welcome like the energy of the new day, like the sun rises, this every day is a chance to start over, and just really acknowledging the element of the air and just like the freshness that comes from the east. And then I hold like the upside down triangle over my womb space, and I say my name, and I hold it up over my third eye. I look up to the sky and I say my name, and I really call in my higher self that way. And I do 30 squats by calling in my higher self. So good. So you get a toned body and you go spirituality. Yeah, and then I turn to face the south, and it's really the element of the fire and the heart. So really opening up the heart. So there do like I don't know, heart opening exercises and a bunch of squats, and also just welcoming the warmth, the heat of the south. And then I turn to the west, which is also water. So the sacred element of water, and just like do this other sort of movement that really is like helping me flow, and do like a back bend, and just like really acknowledging the energy of the west. And I turn to the north, and really what I'm begging for there is flow. Like, please let me flow like water. Let my life like flow like water. And in the south, we're gonna say, but like to really open my heart so that I can love everybody unconditionally. That's like the prayer. And then I turn to the north, which is earth and ancestors and all that stuff. And there I kind of take all the things that the ancestors didn't want me to keep, and I throw it away. So I kind of do this, whatever you call it, like push the arms out, just like imagining them throwing off weight off my back. I'm like, ugh, just throwing that off, and just like, and it's simple, and I really love it, and I do it almost every day. And then I ground. So grounding just means like you're actually lying on the ground. So I just lay myself flat on the ground, and I do this other ritual number two, people. Ritual number two. This is like the most important tool in my day to day, and it's actually a recent tool that I picked up from a woman called Lisa Miller. She's a PhD. She's written books about how people with a spiritual practice or spiritual beliefs are much more resilient. Their brains are more resilient against depression. And she's a PhD. She like, this is what she's been researching for 30, 40 years, and she has the data, and it's proven fact that if you have a spiritual practice, it could be religious or spiritual, not religious, whatever it is, but it actually creates a resilient brain. So one of the things that she's been teaching, and she's even been teaching people like the U.S. Army. Like, this is even a tool that she has taught the U.S. Army, like the generals and so on, to make sure that they have better decision making. Super simple, and it goes a little something like this. So just close your eyes, take a few cleansing breaths, and then you imagine yourself sitting by a table. And it could be any table that comes up in your mind's eye. So just imagine yourself sitting down by this table. And once you're seated, you invite anyone who loves you to join you at the table. So anyone who loves you is free to come and sit down with you at the table. And they could be people you know, people you don't know. It could be people who are deceased or who are living, whoever wants to show up. And every day it could be a different crew that comes. And then you acknowledge them and just like look at them and you're like, cool, you're here. That's great. And then you turn to yourself and you call in your higher self. So you can sort of imagine your higher self being, let's say 500 feet above your head, or somewhere elevated. And you call in your higher self and you ask your higher self, are you here? Are you connected? Okay, great. And then you just tap in and you go to source or God or the highest energy there is, and you also just make sure that you have some sort of connection there. And then you look at the people who are sitting around the table and you just ask them one simple question. This is, do you love me? And they all say, yes, of course I love you. That's why we're here. We love you so much. And just let their love like really wash over you. And then you turn to your higher self. You're like, higher self, do you love me? And your higher self just sends you all this love coming down through your crown and like really like bathing your whole body in the love for you. And then you ask source energy or God, creator, creatrix, you ask the same question. Do you love me? And again, just feel the love bombing like from source all over your body, really heating you up everywhere. And sitting in this love now, streaming at you from 3 different directions, you just ask one question. What should I do next? What should I do next? And from this place, just listen softly to the wisdom that's coming to you. Could be whatever arises within you. And once you've found your answer, you can take a deep breath, acknowledge everybody's been helping you today, and just send them gratitude, and then gently open your eyes. It's simple, and for me, it's like it works every time. It's been so useful. And I do this every day, and it really helps me because I can be very like type A sometimes. I'm like, I gotta do all the things, gotta do the things, and then I get the message like, no, actually, you need to play with your little one, or like cook a really delicious meal for your family today, and like it could be like something completely different that I wouldn't have come up with by myself on that day. So I would. I highly recommend that tool. So that's my ritual number 2 that I do. Like that one is like every day, with a run or without. Like you can just drop down and do that. It takes 2 minutes, maximum. And then my third thing that I would share is that I use mala beads a lot. So like mantras and chanting, stuff like that. I found it super useful. So there's all kinds of, I have these pretty, so it's like a mala beads, like 108 beads and some string. They're like 3 go-to chants I have. One is like Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, which is the Ganesh mantra to like unblock if I feel like I don't know what to do. How am I gonna get there? Everything seems impossible. That was great. And then sometimes I just need to like open my heart. So then I have Om Clean, which is more like a universal love mantra. So those are my like top 3 rituals that I personally use like every day. And of course I do the sage ritual and just like read that and imbibe that in my life. But other than that, these are my go-to tools.
Oh my gosh. I did that visualization with you. Whew. That was, it's so nice to be able to just jump into something like that without, it was so approachable for me. My ego's not going to be like, well, you're not meditating hard enough. It's like, do you love me? That's such a simple question, visualization, and you could just feel it. So I hope if you guys didn't do it, rewind the episode. Take when you can. Take what it wasn't even 2 minutes. I don't even think. Take that time and try it because you're right. Gratitude and love.
Yeah.
Highest vibration, gratitude. When do we feel grateful? When we receive something. So when we're in that state of gratitude and love, we are opening ourselves up to receive more love, higher vibrations, abundance, and all the goodness, all of the goodness. And we can, and it's such a simple way to ask yourself because I'm the same way. It's like I could just push, go, 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 go. But you have to really pay attention to your body. And when you can tap into the love energy and who you really are like that, in such a direct way, it's usually something that you can't think of in that state that, it's going to help you see something differently. Like you said, go play with your kids, do something different than what you would normally do, because that gets us out of that energy and into our bodies. And that's when things just kind of drop in. Like if you're trying to solve a problem, for me, it's like, that's when the download happens. When you're not forcing and working and doing more, it's when you're loving life, when you're in that present moment. So thank you for sharing that, because that was so simple but powerful. I love it. I love it. Love it.
My pleasure. Yay! I'm so happy. Yeah,
Yay.
It's so good. It's profound. It's all the things you really need, right? Yeah, it's amazing.
And the last thing I wanted to kind of get into, because I love this topic, navigating your solar return and channeling all that restless energy into the soul purpose, because Saturn return can be a big thing for a lot of people. For me, I was going through a divorce. I was, restarting my life. I was like, what the heck is happening to me? Why did I manifest this? And I already knew all these principles, but I was like, all right, I really have to apply all of this stuff, right? It's like, okay, I'm being called. I manifested all of this in my life. I'm being called to step up to me, to who I really am. And that's a very simplification of that process. But maybe a brief overview of what Saturn Return is and kind of jumping into that topic.
Yeah, definitely. So Saturn return is really, happens every like 29 and a half years or whatever, like 30 years or what, something like that. So it's really looking at where Saturn was in your chart when you were born. And then around when you turn 29, it's going to be there again. And it's gonna sort of severely shift things for you. And if you're not in alignment with what your soul purpose is, you're gonna know. So it's really one of those times in most people's lives where you're going to have like huge shifts. And like to your point, like you don't know what the heck's going on. How did I manifest this? I thought my life was perfect this way and this is what I wanted it to be and like whatever. So that's what it is. And everybody has it. It's not it's just a thing and you can navigate it with more or less ease. Right? For me, I was not even on my spiritual path when I had my Saturn return, and I didn't even understand what was going on. But like all I knew just fell apart. Like my super long relationship, like we've been together for I don't know, like 9 years, like high school sweethearts basically, and like totally thought we were gonna get married and all things. And like nope, that fell apart. And then my super stable job, like I got laid off. And I like moved out from my boyfriend and like moved back to my mom. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm too old for this. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's okay. I'm going to get this other apartment. And I'm like, put the down payment. And then it turns out I'd been scammed. And I'm like, what the actual? And it was just, I was living in Stockholm at the time. And it was like all these pieces of my life that I had as pillars, like all of them went away except like friends and family. But it was just like, what is the universe trying to tell me? What is it that needs to happen? I was just devastated. I just couldn't get it. I'm like, what have I done wrong? And then my oldest friend, like we've been besties since kindergarten, she had recently moved to San Francisco with her American husband. And she's like, just come visit me. Like, just come here. Let's come visit me. You need a break? Like, it's clear. And I came to San Francisco and I'm just like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I never left. Like, and now I live in San Francisco for a very long time. So it was just one of those. It was just like a door, like a bunch of doors closed and another one open. And I just stepped through it. And that's when my life started aligning, like in San Francisco, I met my husband and I like my career took off and like all the things. And I'm like, wow. And my community, like the friends I had made here, like amazing. And so it was just the other stuff had to fall away. And why I like to talk about this is because if you're going through that and you're despairing, like maybe try to think of it as like a gift. So what if you look at when all things go to shit, like what if it's a gift? What if it's just a necessary thing that needs to happen so better things can come? And I didn't have that mindset when I was going through it. And like in hindsight, I wish I had, because I would have done it with much more grace and ease, but I didn't have anybody in my community that knew how to talk about it that way, or like anyone to support me. It's just like, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It was just like, yes, but there's also something better. Like, how can you use this? How can you not sort of let yourself despair, but rather than just like, see what else is coming through. And it's interesting, like one of my dear coworkers on Sage, like she had a like similar thing going on right now, but she has the mindset. So she's like, oh, it's okay. I know something better is coming. And I'm like, exactly. That's the spirit. Like, that's the spirit. Like, yes, of course, it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt or feel painful to be rejected or whatever it is that's going on, right? But just knowing like that, having that sense of hope that it's happening so something better can happen to you. Like, we're going through this to allow something else to arise. So for me, that's sort of one of those life lessons that I wish I had known when I went through it. So that's why I like talk about it. I'm like, if you're feeling like that, just like, it's going to get so much better.
Oh, for sure. And from that is, the fire, the passion, the wisdom that you want to give back to the world too. Once you walk through that fire and you're on the other side, you're like, wow, I wish I known this. Or like, I want to help support, give back. And I know so many of us are like that in this spiritual health conscious world. And that's why I created this podcast. I created this podcast in the middle, or well, certainly after all of my Saturn return. And it's been over 6 years since then. And it's like just my reminder of what I can go through, I can give back, and just keep showing up and help other people shine their light and their message out. And I remember telling my friends about Saturn Return while I was going through it, who were not in this world, from childhood. And they're like, well, I mean, you think anything else bad's going to happen to me? My grandma just died and this just happened. Please don't, I don't want anything. They were just like, oh my God, like this sounds horrible. I'm like, no, but this is like, now that I can see the other side, it's this divine feminine. That's what you were talking about. I think of the goddess Kali energy of like destruction. Mm-hmm. And I just moved to Florida this past year, and right in the middle of Hurricane Ian, Fort Myers, my first hurricane season, I evacuated. We went to Georgia for 2 weeks. Our place is fine, but it was that surrender of like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't control Mother Nature. This is making me surrender at a deeper level that I never thought was possible. But I also knew internally this was the hurricane, the destruction inside of me was bringing up all these emotions that were holding me back from stepping into that next version of me. And so whether it's your solar return or anything that you think is quote unquote negative, it's because that shit, that emotion is coming up for you to look at and say, oh, if I really do create my reality, and this is what I'm feeling all of the time, I created this. How can I look inward to heal this, to integrate this, to gain that wisdom, to move forward and create something even better than I thought was possible? So if you're going through it, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, like you said, but it's because whatever was created needs to die. It's this rebirth process, the divine feminine process that, like you were saying in the tech industry, you can't be creative every single day. There's a cycle to everything in life, every single thing. And Saturn Return is usually a big death, but it's something that has to happen so you can be reborn into who you really are.
Truth.
Yeah. And mic drop.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's such a, it could be a podcast itself, but yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Julia. It was such an honor. I looked at the time and I was like, wow, time flies when you're being witchy here. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about or wrap up before we start to close the show today?
I would just invite everybody to come check out Saged, join the community, see what's going on, get your daily ritual on with us. And just thank you so much for this beautiful podcast that you created to the world. Like, it's so beautiful. It was such a joy to be here with you today.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you. And thank you for showing up today and showing up for yourself every single day and sharing those beautiful rituals and creating Saged. I know you're an inspiration for me, but I know every single person listening is going to feel the same way. How may we, the listeners, as a huge act of gratitude, a big hug, be of service for you in return today?
I would say, actually, let's really talk about the gratitude piece today and like elevate yourself into that. And whatever you're grateful for today, just really hold that in your heart and take a moment to really make a little internal list. Like, what are you grateful for today? It could be anything. It could be, oh, I got to sleep in, or the sky is so pretty, or whatever it is, and just sort of feel your vibration change to that one of gratitude. Because if you are in gratitude, as Laura was saying earlier, like everything good is going to be like coming your way, and it's really going to help change the frequency on the planet, which was what we're all working towards. Please, for me, step into gratitude today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such an honor to have a fellow witch on.
Thank you so much.
And remember, open up, surrender, trust, and let your body lead the way.